So Candace Owens went on Tucker Carlson's podcast, and well, in short, it was just a major fest by the looks of things. And I looked at the timestamps. I watched a little bit of it. I couldn't really stand the things that I was hearing, and I can't stand both of them, but I will watch the rest of it just for context sake. But there were moments during the timestamps that I was interested in, so I skipped ahead to those moments and listened to those moments. And those moments were, I was like, what in the world are you guys on about? These are two people that are paid millions of dollars to talk nonsense, to basically badmouth people that can't even defend themselves because they're not there. They went after Seth Dillon in 1 minute, attacking him, even though he's a good man. And then they went after and attacked Nick Fuentes and calling him this weird little gay kid in his basement. Like, to me, these people are the ultimate grifters, right? I've said it a number of times and I remain by it. Like, these are the people that millions listen to on a regular basis. They were making up lies about Brigitte Macron and how Brigitte Macron is a man, even though they got no credible evidence to support it. Tucker was just all for this. He was lapping this up because both of them love to lie. But what I found really interesting, and the reason why I'm making this kind of video, is Tucker's attack on Nick Fuentes. Even though he hasn't really interviewed him at all, Tucker seems to think, because he's been around a long time, so he knows the game, apparently. It is a game. It's a very big game, and Tucker is like an expert in the lying game. Now he is, especially considering that his company is funded by Qatar by the looks of things. And now Candy is also part of the whole grift. Tucker seems to think that it's acceptable to attack someone that can't even defend themselves because they're not there on the show. So let's badmouth someone. And again, I don't like Nick Fuentes, right? I'm not a fan of him. But what I don't like is I'm going to attack somebody. I'm going to call them out on my show, and I'm going to agree with Candace Owens, and I'm gonna, it's wrong. It's insane if you ask me. And it's childish. And that's what passes nowadays as entertainment. I mean, it's good for me because it gives me content to react to and call them both out. They're both lunatics. But again, millions of people follow these two. It's nuts. I know loads of people follow Nick Fuentes as well, but still, the whole thing's a joke. Like, there's more important things in the world to talk about, but all these two have got to talk about is attacking Nick, attacking Seth Dillon, lying about Brigitte Macron, also lying about Sigmund Freud. Like, these two can't get enough. It's like, let's pick the next lie and let's go on that. Let's continue down this particular path. It's just nuts. Anyway, this clip is a little bit long, but it's mostly of Tucker just rambling. He does very well too. Have a watch of this.
Okay. Has it occurred to you that, and I just want to say, I haven't watched a lot of Nick Fuentes in my life at all. But what I've seen, the guy's very talented. Like, just as a, well, let me just say this, as someone who's talked to cameras his whole life, it is very hard to sit and just like riff for 20 minutes. And I think it's an amazing skill, and he has that skill. But I also have noticed that his targets are all people who are sincere, non-crazy, non-hateful opponents of neocon politics.
Right.
So you have to kind of wonder about that. So Nick Fuentes is like, oh, I don't like the neocons. But then his targets are J.D. Vance, Joe Kent. He got involved in Joe Kent's campaign with a super, oh yes. You, me. And it's like, What is that?
Dave Smith.
Dave
And I asked him
Smith?
about that because that's a question that I had. So I did the right thing by asking him to his face, what's up with this? Like, why do you attack Dave Smith? You say that like your biggest critique is that America's being controlled by Israel. Then you have Dave Smith, who's been such a sound voice. And by the way, opposite experience with Dave Smith. I have my podcast. He's a fantastic human being. Judge
Dave
people.
Smith is one of the nicest people
Fantastic
ever.
human.
Yes.
And so I judge people according to my experiences with them. And so Nick is being judged according to my experience with him.
But like, what is this?
I don't get
Where
it.
does
I don't
the funding
understand
come
it.
from? I probably shouldn't even say this, but the only reason I know who he is because someone sent me a video a few years ago of him attacking me. And I was like, so I'm looking at this. And I'm like, well, first of all, this kid's really talented, like legit. And I can assess that just having done the job for so long. So I was like, wow, lots of talent, native talent. And he's attacking my dad as a CIA, his dad's in the CIA or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's no, untrue. Then my father dies and I learn actually, was involved in that world. I was completely shocked by it. So no one has to believe me, but that's just a fact.
Right.
This was in March of this year. And I'm like, well, how the hell would this child from Chicago, my dad was 84 when he passed. Like, who does this guy know who my dad is? And like, he's in intelligence. Well, how would he know that? And I
Wait, so that was his critique of you? Because I didn't see it.
Someone just sent me this video and it was like, you can't believe anything Carlson says because his father was in the CIA and he's a CIA working on behalf of the CIA. Well, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, and I actually feel emotional in my anger towards CIA. And I think that comes out on the air quite regularly.
Right.
And so the idea that I'm working for the CIA is like deranged.
Well, if it helps, he said I'm funded by Russia. Now, since the interview, he then did a thing and said I was funded by Russia.
But you would be a lot more likely to take Russian money than I would be to work for the CIA because you would never take Russian money and you're not Russian. But I mean, I really hate the CIA. And I mean, that's like very offensive to me. So why would you?
It's like personal for you.
Well, a little bit.
Yeah.
And anyway, like, who is this kid exactly?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's just an accident that the guy exclusively goes after people who are in roughly the same. And then he gets up there and he's like, making Holocaust jokes. And it's like, is it possible that this is like David Duke? And David Duke, every time I had a new show, David Duke would endorse my show. I don't know, who the hell is David Duke? Well, David Duke is obviously part of a campaign to discredit people on the right, obviously.
Mm.
And I think it's very obvious that Nick Fuentes is exactly the same. Doesn't mean everything he says is false. It doesn't mean he's not talented. He's enormously talented. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. I'm not attacking him personally, but he is clearly part of a campaign to discredit non-crazy right voices. That's obvious to me. I've been around a long time. I know it when I see it.
Yeah. And I will say, I don't understand it. We were very kind to him. Like, I truly, like, we almost said, like, we felt maybe he was a bit lonely. We should invite him back for dinner. I mean, that's how good of an experience I had.
Clearly it's
and then it was a 180. So it's either A, it's being driven from like a little boy insecurity. And he just was so worried that he like just went on the attack because he doesn't know how to have normal relations after being banned everywhere.
Well, I think that
could be one element.
The angry gay kid thing going on. Yeah.
Or it's what you're saying, where he does this, he's lying to everybody and pretending that things are one way when it's not. I can say
why is he attacking Joe Kent, Joe Kent worked as a CIA contractor, paramilitary contractor. He was in the U.S. military for years fighting our neocon wars. And his wife was killed in Syria in one of those wars. Joe Kent is the single most sincere critic, and I would say the one with the most credibility in the United States to say this foreign policy is bad. It killed my wife. I was a part of it. Joe Kent is actually someone the CIA doesn't like at all because he understands how it operates. And for Nick Fuentes, who's like some child from Chicago, to go after him specifically, one congressional seat in Washington State.
That is random.
It's not random, though. It's the opposite of random. Joe Kent was number one on the list of people they wanted to knock off, people who believe in our neocon foreign policy. They wanted Joe Kent out because he could stand up and say, I actually know. I've got the receipts. My wife was killed in Syria. You had to take that guy out. And Nick Fuentes, this child, this weird little gay kid in his basement in Chicago, is participating in a super PAC to bump off Joe Kent. Like, I've been around this my whole life. I know what that is. It's just an organized effort.
Yeah.
And he also did the thing that David Duke always did. including to me, which is be like, oh, yeah, it's my friend. And everyone's like, oh, Tucker Carlson's been endorsed by David Duke. I've been making like the anti-racist argument my whole life.
Right.
Like, I'm not for David Duke. Do I think David Duke is right when he's against affirmative action? You bet I do. But I'm not for David Duke. But David Duke would try to discredit people by hugging them. And that's exactly what Fuentes did. He goes out there and meet all these people. Shop, hi, I'm Nick Fuentes. Can I get my picture with you? That's a campaign to destroy credible voices on the right. And Fuentes is part of it. And I know I'm inviting endless trouble by saying this because, you know, this is a kid with a lot of spare time, but it's just a fact. And I've seen it a lot.
Yeah.
And I, you can believe me or not, but.
Yeah. Okay. First little bit that Tucker was on about is Nick Fuentes targets. He goes after the good faith, the good people, you know, the ones that tell the truth. Nick Fuentes goes after those kinds of people, the ones that are talking about neoconism, you know, those sorts of people like JD Vance or Tucker or Candy, those sorts of people. So, and then Tucker goes, he's very talented. You know, he's very good at riffing on things, and it's not an easy thing to do. But I've listened to Nick, and he actually makes a lot more sense most of the time. I think if you were to compare Tucker to Nick when it comes to riffing, Nick has a point most of the time. Doesn't make his point right, but most of the time Nick has a point, and he gets to it usually very quickly. And he's very good at dismantling things. Don't know if you guys have noticed that. Tucker, on the other hand, is very good at talking a bunch of nonsense. And sometimes you're trying to follow along with him going, what are you even saying? You're weird, mate. You're nuts. What's happening here? What's happening now? And even in the interaction where he's trying to explain things to Candace about Nick, talking about his dad, and it's very disjointed. Whereas Nick, I've noticed, he's very concise, very good at talking, for sure. And again, doesn't make everything that he's saying right, but you can follow along with it a lot better, is what I'm trying to say, than you can with Candy or even Tucker. Because both of them have got a lot of nonsense. They've got a lot of fluff, right? And now a lot of that fluff is just pointless. And Tucker's like, I've been in this game a long time. You know, I know what I'm talking about. Do you? Really? Could have fooled me. Really? You're fooling a lot of people by the looks of things. Let's go down another rabbit hole of where does Nick get his funding from? Right. This is after Nick apparently attacked Dave Smith, who is also opposed to Israel. I think Nick doesn't like people that seemingly are bad faith. That's what I'm getting from this. He'll go after people that not only go after him, but he doesn't like bad faith individuals. And I think he can tell that Candy and Tucker are just really bad faith grifters. And he may be one too. Like, his stance against Israel is disgusting. And all the groypers that he's got involved with him, it's just all wild, right? So again, I'm not defending Nick, but trying to make sense of this entire situation with Tucker going after Nick, and same with Candy too. It's just, like I mentioned not that long ago, it seems like it's very childish. You've got these two grown-ass adults on a podcast talking about a 26-year-old that seemingly makes a great deal more sense at times than they do. So it kind of feels to me like a little bit of jealousy. Recently, Candace and Nick got into it because Nick called Candace out, and lots of people were siding with Candace. The whole internet was divided between the two of them. It was quite funny in some cases. But seriously, there are much more important things for us to talk about and discuss than Tucker and Candace's grievances with Nick Fuentes. I mean, you're giving Nick exactly what he wants, just saying that. You give it, and people will go to Nick's defense. It's just so tribalistic. It really is. Anyway, that's enough from me, but you guys take care. Be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.